Hi, I'm Tim from the Marathon Mates. On this episode, we're going to be talking about all the things that we think would make for a perfect running event. From the Expo to the corrals to the on course experience, right through to the bling at the end. We'll take in all the good things that we've seen from all the many races we've run and done, and we'll turn it into the perfect event that we'd all love to run. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the flying runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 73 of The Flying Runner. On this episode, we're going to create the perfect race experience. We're going to talk about all the things we as runners would love to see if we were organizing the perfect running event. We'll talk about what should and shouldn't be at the Expo, as well as the race day experience. But before we do any of that, I'd like to introduce my co-hosts tonight, Tony, Lucia, and Tara. But before I ask how you guys are, I've not quite caught up on all the content from whilst I was away, but I don't know what happened there, but there seemed to be an awful lot of content created, and the stuff I've heard so far was very, very good. So well done, guys. But I must say, Lucia's tip, yeah, I don't know. We'll leave that one out there for some further working. I think we'll just leave that one.
So
But anyway,
maybe coming back then.
maybe.
Maybe
It's
we
a
can
great,
share these around.
yeah. It's a great backup, Luch. You did a great job, and we had some very good commentary around your tips. So you did an awesome
Maybe.
job, and I'm sure that's what Tim's trying to say.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Sorry. But anyway, guys, how you all going? And most importantly, how's your week been of running over the last week or so? I'll start with you, Lucia.
For me, it's been a quiet week because I haven't been well for the past 2 weeks. I've had a head cold that's turned into my cough, which seems to come back occasionally. So I went for some runs on Saturday and Sunday. The most I did was 5K. It was a bit of a struggle, but after having a cough, like it was a pretty bad cough for 2 weeks, it was good to get out. It was good to sweat it out. So hopefully now I can start building the distances up again.
Okay. Cool. And Tony, did you get to a park run on the weekend? Or
No,
did you do any running?
I was going to do park run, but yeah, I didn't do park run, but I did run 5.6 kilometers or something. So that was pretty cool. I only did a small run during the week, about 3K. And I'm probably going to back that up on Tuesday this week. But yeah, just 5.6 kilometers, just a nice, easy, slow run, just to get myself feeling like I need to be doing, like I should be running again. But I've got a bit of a race happening this week with the GC50, and I'm still not sure whether I'm going to have a crack or whether I'm just going to take it easy. I got a bit of a lump in the back of my left calf, which confused me because I've stayed off it since. I haven't done much since we came back from New York. So maybe it's the calf's good when I'm using it, and when I'm not using it, it says, well, buggy you, I'm going to play up on you. So yeah, so I didn't do much, but it was good to get out.
Yeah. And Tara, how would we go? How do we go during the week?
Well, I don't know what you did during the week, but I think you may have had good sleep-ins because I didn't see on your Strava that you were doing what I was doing. So I actually went for a run with Patrick, our son, on Monday. So I think it was only about 5Ks. And then I did a treadmill speed session or interval, like progressive in speed. Does that make any sense? So I start at one speed and progressively get faster. Just to get out of that comfort zone, just to see what my body can do after New York as well. Obviously, I wasn't pushing hard, but I just wanted to see what it could do. And then park run, we did Chermside Park Run. That was a nice 31, 32 minutes or something. I can't
Something
really
like that.
remember. It was hot, it was humid. And then we hit out for a 15K yesterday. So it wasn't fast. It just was more of a social catch up with everybody that we see along the way. It was a lovely day for it. It was nice to be back in our normal training routine, I guess. And we've got the GC50 coming up this weekend as well. So just doing a half marathon there. We're
Just
like you, Tony.
Just a half.
After the marathon and the half marathon, then the marathon, it just sort of feels like it's just a half now. I shouldn't say just a half.
And
we're not sure if we're going to go hard or fast, or if we're just going to take it easy.
We'll be
I won't be
taking
going
it
hard
easy.
and fast. No, it'll be taking it easy. Yeah.
The way you guys are going, you'll be saying in 12 months' time, "Oh, it's just an ultra. We're just doing 100K this week. It's just an ultra." A lady at work today came to me and she wants to do a half marathon with her husband next year and wants to pick my brain around what she should be doing as part of the training. So for those people out there that are aiming for a marathon, it's more than just a half marathon. It's more than just a half. It is a marathon half that you're going to be doing, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm just stirring you up, Tara. So it's funny how we say that. The other thing I want to mention is I did a Pilates session. I've set a real goal that I need to get into some routines with Pilates and some strength and some stretch because, I know we've got a next episode coming up where we're talking about 2025. And I chose what I thought was a really good Pilates session on YouTube for about 18 minutes. I thought I could do that because when I've done them with Sharon, it's been about 45 and I struggle. I lasted 10 minutes, but at least I'd lasted 10 minutes. So yeah.
I should actually add, Tony, I actually did Pilates myself on Thursday, and it's the first time I've been back to the studio for probably 2 months, and it's amazing how quickly you lose it. I'm like doing all the strength work, and I'm like, this isn't happening anymore. So there's a lot to work on there for me as well. So I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, I have never felt my glute muscles as much as I felt my glutes after that 10 minutes. So, all right.
You can have it. You can have it. I'm not a big fan of Pilates, but guys, it hit me about a week or so ago that we would be the only podcast out there that has 4 6-star medalists on their panel. In addition to that, we have 2 additional guest hosts that we occasionally have, which are Kim and Steve Tudgman, that also have 6-star medals. And then I did a count of the amount of guests that we've had that have had 6-star medals. And Lucia, you double up here because you were a guest before you were a podcast on the podcast. So we've had 10 people by my count in 70 episodes that have come on the show that have had a 6-star medal. So that's one 6-star guest every 7 episodes or so. Try saying that when you've had a few drinks. So in my count, and Tony, you're more of an expert in this field than I am, but in my count, this would make us probably one of the leading authorities from a podcasting point of view around the 6-star. I don't think of any other podcast I can think of that's got that many 6 stars on it.
I think we just own it. So you said we are the only podcast out there that has 4. Yeah, we just own it. And if someone wants to dispute it, let us know. And we'll change. But I've added to our podcast cover that we are the first running podcast hosted by 4 world major 6-star medalists. So people are going to know about it now, Tim, since you brought it to my attention. So we own it. It's ours. We are the first. So
and we have a regular stream of guests and that are 6-star medalists as well. So we are a source of truth and a source of knowledge, I guess, for people out there that are wanting to go down that path. So it's a big deal. It is a big deal.
It is awesome.
Yeah. So well done, guys. Thank you very much. Now it's that time of the week where we talk about the news. Tony, what's been happening around the world of running over the past few days?
the world of running just never seems to stop. And I was talking to a couple of people there towards the beginning of last week about the Valencia marathon, because as we know, there's been some pretty devastating floods in that region. And there was a lot of talk that Valencia would not go ahead. And, you know, whether it was the right thing to go ahead, I think was one of the big challenges that they had to work through. So whether it's the right thing to be having a marathon on a region that's been devastated. But it has been confirmed that they are likely to go ahead as planned, which has been greeted in some aspects with people in a very positive sense. Of course, the people that are lining up to do Valencia are very, very positive. There was some concern that it was going to be cancelled, but it's almost a major. I think, what's the numbers there nowadays? About 30,000 people at
Something
Valencia.
like that.
Yeah, it's some
Yeah, it's
ridiculous
huge.
amount. And of which, based on previous results, about half of them will come in under 3 hours, because it is a fast and flat course. So the flooding took place south of Valencia in villages that weren't protected by the rerouting of the Turia River during the 70s. So Valencia city itself was not too badly affected, but the roads leading into Valencia are. So I think it's positive that they've made the move to say, yes, it's likely to go ahead, and good luck to anyone. Do we know anyone running Valencia?
I know Izzy Bat-Doyle. She's running
Yeah.
it. I'm not sure. I think there could be a few Aussies, but I can't remember. But definitely Izzy Bat-Doyle is.
Yeah, I was listening to, and you haven't written this on the run sheet, Tim, so I'm sorry. But I was listening to Believe in the Run, and I went back a couple of weeks and listened to their New York marathon recap. And I just want to do a shout out to Aussies, because I made a special attention to some Aussies that were at a shakeout run, and they presented them with some gifts, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about the gifts. One was a kangaroo scrotum keyring. Another one was a kangaroo scrotum bottle opener. So to those Aussies, well done for doing that, I guess. But I'm still just not quite sure whether that's the real sort of culture we want to be sharing with the
we
world.
use the whole animal in Australia.
How about a caramello koala next time? That's
Or Tim
what I have
Tams.
to say on that one.
They
Yeah.
also took Tim Tam, so
Oh,
look, I'll give them a break. But Tim Tams, yes. I'm not quite sure of the kangaroo scrotums. Now, the last piece of news that we've got is the caffeine placebo effect, and I find this one really interesting, Tim, and I'm glad you've dug it up, because we've often seen this with some of the studies and research. Is there a placebo effect of people just believing they're taking something that's beneficial for them, and they get a result, and they may only be taking like a sugar tablet or something? So drinking your daily cup of coffee can subconsciously boost your expectations and confidence, which in turn can boost your performance, according to a recent study. The study looked at performance effects, pain perception, belief, behavior, relationship, and attentional and arousal changes in endurance cyclists, comparing results between cyclists who took caffeine and cyclists who were given a placebo. And the subjects given a placebo instead of caffeine still experienced improved motor function, reduced pain, improved concentration, and enhanced power and endurance, which mirrored the caffeine effects, resulting only from the belief that they were consuming caffeine. And to me, it demonstrates the psychological value, I guess, of the belief of what we have when we drink coffee. So what's the lesson? Well, I had to ask Tim for that. And the lesson was, you don't need to have a cup of coffee to get the benefits of drinking a cup of coffee. You just need to believe that you've had a cup of coffee to have a benefit. So what do you think of that, guys?
Well, Tim, I'd like you to discuss that with me on a Sunday morning after I haven't had a cup of coffee, after we've been for a run, and everyone is annoying me. Let's determine the
You've
levels
just
of
got to
tolerance
believe,
then.
Tara.
Just
You've
believe
just
it,
got to
Tara.
believe you've had a cup of coffee.
You're starting to sound too much like Tim Tony. I think we're going to have to cut both of you guys.
It's scary.
Well, that's it.
Not having coffee is bad.
Yeah,
Well,
I enjoy a good cup of black coffee with breakfast, and then I enjoy a good cup of coffee around mid-morning. So I'm not sure I could substitute something and tell myself I'm ingesting coffee.
No.
but
Yeah.
there are runners out there that will have a cup of coffee before they
Mm.
go for their run and before their race.
Mm.
And there are people who really stress out and worry about where they're going to get that cup of coffee from before they do their race. And maybe a study like this might help those people that if they miss that cup of coffee, it's not too bad. It's not going to actually impact them too much. I don't drink coffee at all, so I have no idea what this study's about. But it was interesting. I was trying to get some further information when I researched it to find out how many subjects they tested and how long the study went for, and I couldn't find too much in that detail. But it was quite interesting that some of these things we do take, whether they're gels, whether they're protein shakes or magic formulas or caffeine drinks or whatever, we think they do something, but maybe it's us thinking that they're doing something rather than the product actually doing it. So it's a bit like those headbands that we talked about a little while ago that they were using in the Olympics, where you had a belief that they cooled you down and therefore you felt cooler as a result of it. It's probably the same here, except you don't have to spend $400 on a headband.
I do
Or a cup
know,
of coffee.
though, if I had a cup of coffee before I ran, I would actually get very bad gastrointestinal upset. So
Okay.
I don't drink coffee before I run. I will drink coffee afterwards, but I certainly will not drink it beforehand. I do get a very, very upset stomach. And even if I take gels with caffeine when I'm running, my stomach won't handle it. So I can't give you an honest update as to whether or not it works or not. So, yeah, I just know it makes my stomach hurt. But it does, even Gatorade. So, yeah.
All right, over to you, Tim.
Can I just quickly add?
Yep.
Sorry, just one thing about Sydney. For those that were part of the Candidacy Club, we all got an email last week, and we had to submit our preferences. So as long if it has to go into a ballot, the ballot for the Candidacy Club applications will open from the 25th of November till the 2nd of December. But if the demand doesn't exceed the supply, I believe we'll know prior to the 25th. So hopefully by the time we do the next podcast on our plans for 2025, hopefully Tony and I may know if we got into our preferred year.
And do you know when the general public will be able to be released?
Yep. So the ballot for the general public, the ballot for the general public, I believe, is mid-December.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. It's going to be interesting to see how both ballots go, to be honest. So whether there is a massive demand, but let's hope so. I mean, let's hope that people jump on the bandwagon and want to go into the ballot. Wouldn't it be cool to have 130,000 people go into the Sydney Marathon ballot? That'd be cool.
No, not while we're trying to get in.
We're not in a rush to do it, though. So yeah,
no,
we'll
find another way into it. But anyway, thanks, Tony, for the news this week. Now let's focus on the topic at hand. It's our perfect running event, whether it's a 5K, 10K, marathon, or an ultra event. We've done the racing. We've looked at many, many races, seen it all, done it all, and we're now going to put together what we think would be our perfect running weekend race event. So I want to start off, guys. I'll open it up and I'll get you guys talking about it. But let's talk about the pre-race experience. When you sign up, you go through a registration process. Some events will send you a million emails, and I'll say New York was one of those where I think I got bombarded by more emails than I probably would have liked. But you can't you can't complain about the lack of information. And others you sign up for and you never hear from them again, and you turn up on race day wondering whether there's a race there or not. Others have things like virtual goodie bags, other sorts of things. So talking amongst yourselves now, what would be your ultimate sort of pre-race type experience that you would like to see when you're registering and signing up?
I think for me, and I know we're going to get into this possibly a bit later, but one thing that I really liked was the year that we did Dopey, you could actually pay extra to queue for the expo early and get early access to the merchandise area. I can admit, I paid. I
Of course
paid.
you did.
I've got, I paid so I could have early access. I think in certain circumstances, especially the big marathons or the big events, whether that be a 5, 10, or a half, to give people that option and actually limit the numbers that you sell it to. I personally loved it, even though I still got there extra early, even though I paid for it. But by the time I got there, within half an hour, the queue was hundreds of people deep behind me. So I really liked that.
We all smiled when Lucia said that. So for those just listening to the audio, that is just so like Lucia.
Yeah.
So let me in early to go shopping. So
Take my money.
Fortunately or unfortunately, Team Alice has actually witnessed that a number of times.
What with Lucia? Yes.
Yes, yes.
all right.
I think picking up a bib easily is really important. So like after Tokyo, we lined up for the Tokyo Marathon, and Lucia, you were with us on this one.
Yeah, but
So-
but I picked my bib up differently because I got my entry different to you guys. I remember in Tokyo, I was with Nadine when we picked ours up. We were done in that area in 5 minutes, but you guys were ages.
Now,
our
are we
bib
at the
pickup was at
expo
least
yet,
40.
Tim?
No, we're not at the expo. Unfortunately,
sorry.
Tara and Lucia are jumping ahead with excitement.
Yeah, they
Sorry.
are. So,
I'm talking about registration.
Okay, so the
Okay.
registration, we
and
want it to be easy.
pre-event stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want it to be easy. You want it to be in a language that you can understand. You want it to be, well, I'm talking about China. Like, and I don't mean this to sound awful, but China was going in for a major marathon and you couldn't even find out what was going on with their marathon. So,
and once again, I
that's-
was just laughing because of where we did the episode around majors, the major alternatives, and Tim was talking about the one in South
Rio
America
de Janeiro.
that he
all in
couldn't understand
Portuguese.
because it wasn't in English. So
yeah. And you want it to be in a monetary value that you actually feel that you're getting something for your race. So, look, we all know races are getting more expensive. We understand why. However, if you're going to a race, you don't want to just get like no offense to the people that have run Comrades, because I know that Comrades is amazing, but you feel pretty ripped off getting a medal like that, wouldn't you? Like, you look at the pre-race registration, it's like, oh, is it worth that little thing that's the size of $1 coin? Or, those little things that you're looking at on the website, you want to see looking a bit flashy, I think.
And
So
just
what
to
about
add-
things like, virtual goodie bags? I know a number of events have them. I look at them, but then generally find I'm in the wrong country to take advantage of some of those offers, or that the products themselves don't exist in Australia, or the companies don't exist. There's other things like run groups that sometimes they'll hook you up in some events with a local run group where they'll do runs on a training runs on a Friday night or a weekend. Are they the sort of things you want to see in your perfect event, that when you sign up, you can get access to some running clubs or to virtual goodies or anything like that?
Yeah,
I've
never used a virtual goodie bag. And once again, you look at it, it's either unattractive or it's, you're not in the right country. The other thing from your communication piece, if they bombard you with emails, you are less likely to view all the emails, and then you're more likely to miss the important ones. So I think there is a real balancing act with the emails, and I tend to agree with you on New York. There was a lot of stuff coming through for New York, and there was one of the ones that was really important that I just happened to be going back and looked at because everyone else was talking about this email that had come through. So So that's one of the challenges. From a registration point of view, whether it's a ballot or whether it's a registration process, there's got to be a level of excitement there, I think. And, I can only talk about the recent experience we had registering for Amsterdam. We were ready to go on the time that they were opening up the registrations. And there's a level of excitement there when you see yourself in the queue and the 1,031, and then Sharon was 987, and then Nikki and Duncan over in Amsterdam was 732, and you're all talking with each other saying, "Oh, I'm now 58, I'm now 50, oh, I'm on now," and away you go. So I think registrations, especially for some of the bigger races, there's that level of excitement that sort of comes with being able to register or put into the ballot or something. So I think that's important. So
Yep. All right. Now, so once we get to the weekend or to the event, there's usually an expo of some sort. We've seen some very, very average expos, and we've seen some very, very good expos over the years. In your minds, guys, what would be the perfect expo? We've already heard from Lucia a little bit about a early bird special where you can jump the queue and pay a bit more to jump the queue. But in my mind, a perfect expo would never run out of product or merchandise, so it wouldn't really matter what time you got there. They would always have enough product there for everybody. That's what I expect from an expo. But look, do you guys expect things like roofing companies and makeup companies present, or what would you expect in an expo? I'll hand it over to you again, Lucia.
I think things which are running related, because as much as we've joked about on various episodes about the roofing solutions, the hairstyles, it's like, how are those products going to impact me on race day? Simple answer, they won't. So anything that's running related obviously is ideal, but I think the one thing which it's always one that comes up at various expos, Disney ones always happens. How they say that people go in, buy the merchandise, and then 5 minutes later it's on eBay. So to somehow to try and contain that and possibly only let the merchandise be available to initially maybe runners, or if not have a limit, it's because to me, and this is just my personal views, but why would you buy merchandise from a race in which you haven't done? That's
Yeah,
one thing.
let alone then sell and buy it off eBay.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's a way to control that, I think that would be ideal, because it gives everyone a fair chance to access the merchandise.
Yeah. Tara?
Yeah, I agree with that. I like, as I was talking before, bib pickup is really important to me. I don't like standing in line to pick up my bib. That's the part of the expo that people need to get in and out for. A lot of people don't want to actually even go to that merchandise section. They need to pick up a bib. So that should be fast. That should be quick. That should be very well organised. Chicago was absolutely amazing. New York's amazing. Tokyo was an absolute shambles.
London, they print them out on the spot.
Yeah,
you walk in, you scan the QR code, it goes straight to a printer, it prints out the bib in about 15, 20 seconds, and you've got a bib in your hand.
Really you don't have somebody rustling through for it. Gold Coast Marathon is sometimes you're standing in line for 30 minutes waiting for a bib. I don't think that that's the part of the expo that you should be waiting on. Like, I don't care if you have to wait for a T-shirt. Well, I do, because I don't want to be doing that either. But you should not be waiting for your bib, to me. Like, you should not be waiting in line for hours for a bib. So,
agree with everything that's been said, and I think one of the big challenges that we see in expos is the quantity of merchandise available, and I think that if there was ample opportunity for people, whatever time they're coming in, to buy the merchandise, that limits the demand on places like eBay. And so you start to, if you address the public and have enough stock there's less people that are going to go on try and buy it online from some person that lined up and bought 100 T-shirts or whatever the case may be. I agree, bib collection has to be efficient, and it was so good at New York this year. Just witnessing that again, the New York process. Chicago was awesome as well. Berlin was a bit of a cluster when we did it, but then more so the following year. So there are some real challenges with bib collection, and a lot of people don't care about expos. As Tara was saying, they just want to get their bib and go. They're on a time limit, and it should be a no fuss process. And but in saying that, all the volunteers that man those places in expos are absolutely lovely. I've never met one that's angry, stressed, or making it hard. They're all excited for the runners, so they're doing such an amazing job. The organisation is what's letting them down with people having to queue and wait. So
100%. Yeah, the volunteers do an amazing job. I definitely am not putting anything back on them, because that's not their fault that they're understaffed or that things haven't been organised the way that it should be done. So
Yeah.
The other thing, sorry, Lucia, you go.
No, I was going to say, just further, Tara, just further to your point about the volunteers. I think it's an important shout out that we need to remember that those guys, that they're actually giving their time up to help. So sometimes you see people learning how to scan a QR code to get your bib. If they don't get it right the first time, bear with them. It's like they're helping you ultimately. So that's why I'm always very conscious of, and I know you guys are as well, always thanking the volunteers, because really, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have half the stuff we do.
100%. 100%. And just for my 2 cents on the expo, I guess for me, I would like to see lots and lots of samples. I like expos where you get lots of samples to take home to try out. We took home a body glide from Chicago. It wasn't body glide, but it was a version of body glide, and we got to try it, and good. We tried it. We didn't like it, but at least we got to actually have a sample size of it. We got to try a whole heap of what they call Pedialyte, which is an electrolyte. We got to try that, and it was quite good. So it was something that we might consider buying if we came across it again. So those sort of things are good. The other thing at expos is, I know sponsors pay a lot of money to have the naming rights sponsors, but please don't use that as an excuse to block other people from displaying at the expo. So, for instance, shoe companies and sporting goods companies, you know, it's good to go to Chicago. It's good to go to New York and see that Nike and New Balance let other sponsors, other shoe companies come in, because that doesn't always happen in a lot of expos, and it's a shame. So I really like the idea of it being a full runners expo that actually has runners products from all sorts of brands, not just the major sponsors of the event.
100%. 100%.
All right, so we do the expo. Oh, the other thing is, Tony, I know you've got some thoughts on this. I might have some slightly different thoughts. Finisher shirts versus participation shirts. Do you get finisher shirt and participation shirt at the expo, or do you get one or the other, or none?
You get, in my mind, you get what I would call an event shirt or the participant shirt as part of your fee. You then potentially have an opportunity to pre-purchase a finisher shirt, which is then available to you at the finish line. But I don't want to go to the place of asking organisers to provide an event shirt and a finisher shirt as part of the fee, because it's just going to see our fees lift. But you should have the option. But I think they're two very different things. And, you know, we talk a lot about bad juju when you buy finisher stuff prior to racing. And our good friend Terry Frew actually bought a finisher's cap at New York, didn't realize it was a finisher's cap, and then was creating all this bad juju for himself by walking around with his finisher's cap. So unbeknownst to him, because they were quite minimalistic sort of finisher stuff. So that's my thoughts. You get a participant shirt at the expo, or a finisher shirt at the end, like Gold Coast does. But you either or, and if you get a participant shirt or an event shirt at the expo as part of your sign-on, you then get an option to buy the finisher shirt and have it there as you finish the line. So just my thoughts.
I think it needs to be at the finish line. I don't like the idea. like Chicago, where you then have to go and source the Nike shop in town and then walk a couple of kilometers after you've done the race to try and find the Nike shop to then be able to buy the finisher gear and line up in another line. I think it's got to be done at the event. A lot of people travel home straight after the event.
Yeah,
so,
they do.
Yeah.
Because Sydney, we had to pick it up at bib pickup, and I remember the year that we did London, we got our finisher T-shirt once we crossed the finish line with our goodie bag.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. So it's either or it's at the finish line. So.
Yep. And now race day, getting to the start line. What would be your perfect way of starting a race?
I liked New York, and I know that the wait was long, but I did like just being able to get on a bus, get dropped at the start line, and not have to worry about anything else. So London was the same for us. However, that is because of the way that we did our marathons. So I know not everyone has that luxury. Some people do have to find their own way by getting a tram, train, bus, ferry, boat, whatever. But to me, the ideal way to do it is go straight from your hotel, get on a bus, get dropped right at the start or where the corrals are. Yeah.
And personally, I think the ideal is Chicago or Berlin, where start and finish are in the same sort of locale. So you stay in a central location and you can walk to the start and then you can walk home after the race. I think that is the ideal. And both of those courses are a big, like a loop of the city, and it comes back. So I think that is ideal. I think New York is really challenging logistically, and I mean there is such an aura around New York, and we love doing it. But we were in our starting corrals for 4 hours again, and you've got to be either really well planned or accepting of that. But I can imagine that there were a number of different runners who were faced with that sort of scenario, who expanded a lot of energy and nervous energy trying to get through that time period. Whereas, as we know, Tara just pulled up the old hobo airbed and had a bit of a snooze because we knew what we were expecting, and we just did that. So I think New York is really challenging to have.
Boston's the same. Yeah.
Boston's the same, to go for a bus trip 1 hour out. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. Those marathons are absolutely iconic, and you would never change a thing about those marathons. Just if we're doing our perfect one, you know, we're starting the New York Marathon. If we were designing the perfect New York Marathon, we're probably starting in Central Park and then finishing in Central Park, and so that everyone can just walk down and walk home. But yeah, that's my thought.
It used to be that, but then it got boring because it's 10 laps of Central Park or whatever it was back in the day. So, but Lucia, you would know this fondly. Tara, I know you are fondly of this. My only request is that they give bus drivers proper GPS coordinates or routes to take, or give them maps that they can follow, because inevitably, every year at Dopey, there's a bus that gets stuck or lost trying to get to the start line. Every year at Queenstown, like when we were there, Tara, we almost missed the start of the Queenstown Marathon. We literally ran off the bus where it dropped us off, had to run to the starting corral, had to throw our bags at the bag drop, and then strip off as we're crossing the start line to get going, because we only just made it. But inevitably, buses do miss where they're meant to go. And I only ask that they give bus drivers proper instructions and directions on where do they go, and give them a GPS coordinates built into their bus to get them there. All right. Yeah. So you then get to the start line, guys. How many Portaloos do you need per person in your perfect race?
2 per person. And maybe have a male and female Portaloo. I don't know, but seriously, the American Portaloos are just so unattractive. At least I whinge about our ones, but at least they flush. Like, you're not looking into this long drop and smelling it. So there is nothing worse on a hot day going into a Portaloo and you're just like, this was not a good idea. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
And I think to have them scattered in different parts, like instead of having a row of 20, have it maybe in 2 rows of 10 in different parts. And therefore, people will line up in different areas.
I
And
must say, New York was really, really good. So you go off the bus and there's Portaloos.
Yeah.
You go into your starting zones. So you go blue or pink or whatever color you, orange, whatever color you are. There's Portaloos. You go into your starting corrals within the colors, whether you be A, B, C, D, or E. There's more Portaloos. So that really spreads things out. It's really well done. London was the same, where they had a lot of Portaloos on one side, a lot of Portaloos on the other side, and urinals for male and females in the middle of. So that was really well organised. Boston, I think we had maybe 4 Portaloos for 300 people as we got off the bus, and that was just ridiculous. Like, by the time we'd all gone, the start of the race had started, so it was a bit weird.
And if we're talking about our ideal race, still going on the subject of Portaloos, air freshener in them, and a supply of toilet paper, please.
Yeah.
I always
hand
sanitizer.
gel or soap and water. Like, American Portaloos do not have soap and water; they only use sanitizer. And then if there is no sanitizer, it's like, well. Not nice. So,
And I've got to agree with you on New York. Toilets were amazing and much better than they were last time. And approximately 1,500 toilets in the start villages and start corral. So I think phenomenal. that was evident. And we didn't have to wait at all in Pink Corral or Pink Starting Village. But yeah, I agree with you. American porta potties should be outlawed, and from a health and hygiene perspective, they are horrendous and horrible and disgusting. And I do not know how they get away with it. So, but yeah, you need to have ample. So 1,500 for a race that's going to have 50,000 runners over a 4-hour, an 8 to 3 hour window. I think that would be the benchmark in my eyes. So.
Yep. The other thing they need to do is on courses, and I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but they should stagger the Portaloos so that there's more Portaloos at the first break where the first drink station is, and have less later on. Typically, they just put 1 or 2 Portaloos at each of the drink stations, and it's never enough, and you end up queuing at the first or second. And most people need to go in the first few kilometers of the race. They don't need to go so much towards the end of the race.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep. All right. So moving along, we start the race. What's the corrals and starting area look like, guys, in a perfect world? Lucia?
I think in a perfect world, it's hard to beat New York, just in terms of the atmosphere. And I don't think I've ever been in a corral with everyone being so excited. Like, you still have the music going, and bringing it back to our porta potties, and still having the option in there. But to keep people in the corrals, if possible, for the shortest period of time, because obviously everyone's excited, ready to go. And by the more that people are in there, people are going to be wasting the energy. So I think by keeping them simple is probably the better way to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Lucia. I enjoyed New York. You had your Dunkin' Donuts, you had some coffee, you could get a bagel, and that was all included, obviously, thanks to Dunkin' Donuts. However, you did have room to spread out as well. If you wanted to lay down and just relax and just get yourself into some sort of zone, you could do that, and there was plenty of room to do that. Same as London. There was lots of room in your corrals to actually move around. There was Portaloos and stuff like that. Tokyo, you went through your gate, you went through security, and then you lined up as if so you were about to start a race. And then you stood there for an hour and a half waiting and waiting. Yeah. And you couldn't sit on the ground because there was not enough room to sit on the ground. So you're standing on your feet for a good hour or so, and you can't go to the toilet. So you're just standing there waiting for the start to happen.
Your spot. You can,
or
but
you lose your spot. Yeah.
Yep.
So
That was what was good about Chicago. We could sit on the ground in the corral, and there was plenty of room there for everyone to sit down until the last minute when we started to stand up, and then we condensed down. But I guess in a perfect world, you would want bigger corrals to accommodate more people than what you've got, or more space than people. So you've got plenty of room for everyone. All right. Now, getting out onto the course, Tony, how often would you want to see in a perfect race a drink station, and what would your drink station comprise of?
And once again, recent experience at New York, pretty much there was something every mile once we got to the 3 mile mark. And I think that's a bit over the top, but appreciative. So I was only, when I read that, and as I was preparing, I was only going to use every second drink station, which is what I did. Sharon used more, but I think the bare minimum, right? So if we're talking bare minimum of drink stations, it should be at least every 5K, because I think most people sort of would be requiring a drink around there. I think New York is probably the optimum with every mile. Not every race can do that. So, but I would be looking at either 5 or every 3K potentially, which is going to give everyone the option, and that those drink stations are maintained throughout while there's a runner on the course. Now, of course, as all the runners go past the early ones, you can start packing them up. But the last thing you want is drink stations packed up when your back of the packers come through, because that's the most dangerous time. And that's, if we're going to see bad instances, that's when it's going to happen. But in saying that, and I know you've got this a little bit later on with electrolytes, I think the way New York did their electrolytes was outstanding. And as you know, Sharon and I were definitely back of the packers at New York. And to still have full range, like we never see gels, right? Usually they're always taken, right? And people stock up and take them home and take 20. Why you want to do that in a marathon? Got no idea. Are they that so expensive that you've got to do that? But New York had them still set up as we're coming through. They're in their flavors. They got different people. Here's my banana one, or here's my vanilla, and this one's got caffeine. And it was just so well organized and so appreciative. So, but yeah, that's my thoughts on drink stations.
Lucia?
I would agree. New York did it quite well, and to have them spaced out, and to have them in the distances, which it was, you didn't have to worry about bringing anything on you. I also thought London did it very well. So from memory, it was water, one drink station, and the next one was water, and they had Lucozade. Yeah, so knowing, okay, I could grab one, and then if I finished it would only have to be another 2 drink stations until the next one. So I thought probably out of all the majors, London and New York had the drink stations set up the best, because Tony, I agree with you. They sometimes they forget about the back of the packers.
Yeah.
So I remember, if I mentioned this, with Melbourne. So I only did the half marathon in Melbourne, and when we got to Albert Park, there's always a drink station in the pit lane of Albert Park. By the time I got there, it was all packed up.
Yeah.
And it was
how do they run it? How do they run out of water in pit lane? There's taps there. There's hoses. I don't get it.
And it was a hot day, so yeah, Melbourne didn't do it well for the back of the packers. I think London and New York probably do it the best for the back of the packers.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, and the London has got that the water bottles, the little the right size water bottles just to fit in your hand. And everyone goes, "Oh, it's so much waste with the water bottles." There's a lot more waste with cups, because I will take 2 or 3 cups of water, because by the time I drink one and spill half of it down the front of me, and then need another one to sort of rinse out my mouth, I'm wasting more, because I only fill up the cups with just a mouthful or so of water anyway. So, and you don't have time to sit there and wait for them to fill up. Whereas at least with that little handheld water bottle, you can carry it for you for as long as you need to, ditch it at the next water station and get another one to carry along. So, and just take tiny sips.
Yeah.
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 And just the other thing, on both sides of the road, not just one side of the road, and very well signposted how many tables there's going to be. So, because
Yeah.
everyone makes a rush for the first table, and if you know that there's going to be 6 tables there, the smart runners will go for table 6 as opposed to diving in
Correct.
to the carnage
And also
around table 1.
really well signing if it's electrolytes or water. So
Yeah.
some races, like Niagara Falls was fantastic, but I think we missed our first water station because all the cups were with the electrolytes in it. Like it showed the electrolyte drink, but the first half
Had
of it was
water in
water,
them.
and then the second half was the electrolyte, but they were all
Yeah.
the same cups. So
I like
separating those cups out.
different color cups. So black
Mm.
cups for electrolyte and white cups for water. I'm conscious of time, guys, but some of the other extras that we've seen over the years, what would be the perfect things you'd like to see? Let's go a few, Tara, in a race.
Bananas at 30 k's. That's my number one thing. I don't care, just bananas.
What about a wet sponge, Tara? You like a wet sponge every once in a while too?
That sounded really bad, Tim. Yes. How do I say?
When you're running.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. Yes, I do like the wet. Tony's just about to wet himself over there. Yes, I do like a wet sponge to cool down with when it is a hot race. Yes.
Yep. Lucia?
I think also for when it's a hot race, I know this isn't possible all the time, but they did it in Boston, and God, it was a massive help. Ice cubes in bags, like just tiny bags, a few ice cubes, because I put one of those down the front of my top, and it really brought the body temperature down.
I know, because you shoved some of those down my back as you went past me and you were shoving them down my back. I remember that. So, yep.
Yeah, I don't usually partake in too much while I'm running. So water, electrolytes. I don't use gels. I've never really grabbed one. But if there was going to be anything, it's probably going to be sponges or cramp fix or pickle juice.
Biofreeze.
Yep. Yeah, Biofreeze is offered on a lot of the courses now as a bit of in medical tents, but yeah, you need some have specific biofreeze zones, so I think that's
Chicago.
and knowing where they are would be a huge bonus. I think Chicago are very good with their communication around that. But yeah, I electrolytes, water, bananas, and let's keep them at 30 miles. Okay. 30 kilometers.
I was going to say, we're doing a very big marathon now.
One of the things I like is every drink station in some of the majors, particularly the American ones, they have a medical tent there. They have people standing out the front with ice cream sticks with Vaseline on them. They have spray on Biofreeze. They have Tylenol for you to take. Band-aids, those sorts of things are there. It's all self-help. It's something we don't see very much here of in Australia. It costs a lot of money to set up a medical tent, but having one of them at every drink station is something that is handy. I know in New York, I was starting, because I'd been sitting around for 3 or 4 hours, a bit of my body glide had started to rub off and I was starting to chafe. It was handy just to be able to get some of that Vaseline and put it under my arms and stop the chafing pretty much straight away. So that for me is probably one of those ones that I would really like. The other one I'd really love to see is, and I know companies do this to make money, but all the on-course photos should be free for all the participants, I think, or at least at a reasonable price. Some of them are well and truly over the top, and I'm looking at Tokyo as one example there. But I think if you're going to run in a race and they're going to take photos of you, which they can use for any purpose that they choose, you should actually be getting them at a pretty cheap rate rather than at the ridiculous rates that some of those photos are charged at.
Or even if you can just get 1 or 2 for free and then you can purchase the rest. But I do think you should be able to be entitled to a couple for free, maybe.
Yeah. Typically the ones we would get for free would be the ones where I'm looking a bit out of place. But I think
that's every photo for me.
Yeah. All right. So then you get to the finish line, guys. What does your finish line experience look like in a perfect race? I'm going to start with you, Lucia.
I've got one word. Few words. Disney snack box. I don't think anything can beat that, but it's got to have the fake cheese because I don't think I've seen or read any other races in which the snack box is more controversial than the medal.
Yep.
Because each year in which they don't have the fake cheese, the online groups explode. They're like, I can't believe they've taken it away. People get really passionate about the fake cheese. So for me, it's the Disney snack box. They do it amazing.
I also like the idea that when you're doing I'll use Sunny Coast as an example here because they're half marathoners and full marathoners and 10Kers, and everybody comes in through the same finish line. Sometimes you can get very caught up as a marathoner, getting caught with people like the 10Kers and stuff like that, and getting sort of forgotten about as doing such a huge achievement as a marathon. You can actually get lost in amongst the other runners. So I know not every runner's like that, but it would be nice, say, for example, that if you're going to be running a marathon, here comes Lucia Banco, she's running her marathon today. You know, she's coming in with the 10Ks, but look at her go. Do you know what I mean? Like something that's a little bit more of a hype, perhaps. I don't know. But I do like the idea that when you come through the finish line, I think the space blankets need to be probably given to you a little bit earlier as well. I know with New York, we've got every single part of our goodie bag, I guess is what you call it, all of our medals, and then the blanket. And it was like, by the time you got your blanket, you were almost halfway around Central Park and you were a bit cold. So, yeah.
You weren't halfway, Tara. We only thought we were halfway at that point, and then we realised we had 2 miles to walk.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Just to get out of the park. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I like it when they call you through, and I know they can't do that all the time, but it'd be nice if they could call people through by their name as they do it. I know Ironman events do that really well, where everyone goes up a finishing sort of a chute, up a ramp, but that's Ironman, different sport, but they call everyone that crosses the line over the line. Space blankets, definitely on the colder runs, they need to be handing them out. Medals need to be big, they need to be fancy, they need to be showy. They need to be something that people can be proud of and they can hang up and they can talk about forever and a day. You never know. It might be somebody, and chances are it might be somebody's first marathon and they want something nice to show for it. They don't want a small little medal that's got the sponsor's name all embroidered over it. I know for us, our very first marathon medal was up at Sunshine Coast, and it was the local TV station's logo was the medal. Channel 7, and that was it. That was the medal, was a Channel 7, and it's like, that doesn't say anything to me about the marathons. So I think they need to be fancy and they need to be focused on that. I like the idea of a beer at the end. Berlin had the non-alcoholic beer. Chicago had the Goose Island beer. I think that's a good idea. I think Boston had a beer there as well from memory. I had to go afterwards to get the beer, but I like the idea of a beer at the end. And then, the goodies. The finisher shirt should be provided, whether it's a shirt, whether it's a beach towel, whether it's a hat. This year at Gold Coast, they gave everyone who ran the marathon a finisher's hat, a blue and yellow hat, and you see them running around, Pete, now, and you can actually say, oh, you're a marathoner. We did the double and we got a beach towel as well, which is quite a memorable piece. So it's not just a T-shirt. So those sort of things should be considered beyond just a finisher shirt, I think. That make it stand out. The other thing I was going to talk about, and I know we are mindful of time, is, and just very briefly, your ideas or thoughts around the past participant experience. So what I mean here is the Spartans or the legends or the streakers or the perfect dopies or whatever you want to call them, the people that have done multiple runs. They get special, in some events, they get special lounges, they get special access into or out of the event. They get extra little perks. Is that something you would like to see in your perfect world?
It doesn't faze me, to be honest. I think it's great that they do it, and it's really good recognition for those runners, but that wouldn't entice me to make sure that I run that race continuously.
Yeah.
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah. Tara?
Yeah, I'm the same. Like
Yep.
I know Gold Coast, I watch them endlessly when I'm standing waiting in line for a toilet, that they've got their own little special room there with breakfast and stuff. I wouldn't eat the breakfast and I wouldn't use the seats or anything like that because I actually enjoy the actual atmosphere of being outside with everybody else and all of that. The only thing I get a bit jealous of is the fact that they've got toilets that they don't have to line up for. So, yeah. It wouldn't worry me either way.
Yep. I like running past people who've got their legend shirts or their Spartan shirts or their perfect shirts. It was great in New York seeing some of the people that had like 30 plus years of running the New York Marathon on their bibs as well. So those sort of things, I think I like seeing that, but I'm a bit different in that space. So, but anyway. All right, well, that wraps up what our perfect race experience would be like. But before we finish up, we always get a tip. So I'm going to give the tip this week for a change. So my tip is do the races that excite you. I know sometimes we all get into a bit of a rut and pick the same races over and over again. And I know Tara and I are the same. We pick Sunshine Coast, we pick Gold Coast. But it is important to pick the races that excite you, to go in and go for the experience. Running is about the experience and the fun. It's not always about just going out there and crushing a race and getting, fast times and doing it over and over again. But if you are somebody like us who does run for bling and bling is your thing, then go and chase it. Go and look for the best event. Go look for the best experience. You pay a lot of money for these races. There is a lot of competition out there in these races, and some of these races offer a better experience than some of the other ones out there for about the same amount of money. So my tip this week is go and chase the bling, go and chase the races that excite you and have some fun. At the end of the day, you pay a lot of money and make sure you get the fun that goes with it. Would you agree with that, guys?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Fantastic tip there, Tim.
Yep, can't add to it. Well done.
I'm back, baby.
I was going to ask the question, but so why are you doing Brisbane Marathon? But we'll leave that alone. So.
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode later on.
Yeah.
There's another reason, because there's a 4-star bling medal that I would be chasing if I did that. So
Okay.
yeah, so the Atlas Events that owns Sunshine Coast, Hobart, and Cairns Marathons. So there might be a little future 4-star medal there for me. Anyway, this episode is about to end, but before we do that, Lucia, what is on next week?
Thanks, Tim. So on next week's show, we are going to talk about what is next for each of us, what is left for the rest of the year, and what's coming up for 2025. And to think in only 6 weeks, not even, that's going to be 2025. We will also talk about the races we will race versus potentially races we may not race, and what we're looking forward to the most. And hopefully by then, Tony and I may know if we've got a spot for Sydney for next year, which would be very exciting. And as per usual, it's going to be an episode you're not going to want to miss, guys.
Cool. Thanks for that, Lucia. I've already got it all mapped out for next year, so I can't wait to tell everyone what we're doing. So that wraps up our episode. For those of our listeners who've sent messages wishing us all well on our recent trips, so Tony, Lucia down in Melbourne, and Tony and myself and Tara over to New York, thank you very much. It did mean a lot to us, and it did help us get through those races on those days. For those who sent messages in saying the podcast was better just with Tony and Lucia and without Team Alice, we might ignore those ones, might we, Tara?
I promise we didn't pay anyone.
Yeah. Fill the inbox.
Before we go, I'd like to thank you guys, my marathon mates, for joining me tonight. It's been a lot of fun as always, as we've discussed our perfect race. I don't know if we got to the perfect race in the end, but I think we got there. If we sort through it all, you might be able to find some key bits of things in there that will be good. But see, we finally run a run sheet, and look, we're getting back on track with our timing, so it's good. As always, we love recording these podcasts for you, our incredible, wonderful listeners. We love hearing your feedback, so please like the episode wherever you're listening to it and leave some comments or send us a message via our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and or Messenger. Or we have an email address now. Tara, what's the email address?
Happy running at Flying Runner, and that's flying flyingrunner.com. So happy running at flyingrunner.com.
Thanks, Tara. And as usual, a video of the episode will be available on Spotify and YouTube, and audio will be on Apple and Amazon and most other popular podcast platforms. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Flying Runner. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.